Test, check, 1, 2. Welcome, everyone. Phone a friend is back. We were off for a while. Let's see if I still remember how to do this. Somewhat. How y'all doing? Welcome back. I took a few weeks off while I was back in Vancouver and wasn't able to get it done there. I left my mic up there, so I'm just gonna use my Mac mic. Hopefully that works out. I'm in quarantine back in LA. Sort of. I don't know if there's a quarantine here. Let me know where everyone's tuning in from today. It's great to be back for the last show, Phone a Friend 27 of the year. Then we'll take Christmas off for the holidays and be back January 1st with a really big guest. Glad to hear it sounds good. I know we've got Germany in the chat. We've got the US. Today we are going to talk about the future of music and music platforms and streaming, and I'm really excited. It's a massive new world that I started. Chicago, nice. Must be a little cold over there. I will say it's like I'm not wearing socks, which is nice to be away from Canada and like not freezing my ass off. But yeah, Audius is doing some really cool things in the blockchain. What up, Brooklyn in the house? And we're gonna find out all about that. And don't worry, like if you are brand new to it, or you're already on there, or you already buy Bitcoin or whatever, we're gonna like try and delve into all of it today. And I'm really excited about that because I mean, hang on, the dog is like freaking out. Obi out, Obi out. Sorry guys. Obi, let's go. You're out. Come on. That's how you know I'm back. Obi's like knocking over shit. Like last time we killed the connection. All right, we're back. So our guest today is Koopa Troopa, also known as Cooper Turley. He is strategy at Audius, all things crypto, editor at, I believe it's DeFi Rate, and just involved in all sorts of crazy, cool, interesting projects. I sort of started paying attention to some of the stuff he was dropping. He was really active in Andre RAC's sort of crypto chat. And the guy just kind of is clearly excited about all this stuff. And so I think who better to have join us. And without further ado, Cooper, how's it going, man?
What up? Doing well, brother. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Yeah, just cooling my heels back in LA. Where are you at?
I'm in LA as well, man. No hope.
Oh, nice. Um, yeah, well, thanks for joining us. And I guess, like off the top, like what's your background with all this stuff and in music?
Yeah, for sure. So I went to school and got a music business degree. When I went to college, I quickly realized that music was my passion. I was going to shows every week. I was doing a lot of DJing, a lot of curation for a couple blogs. Spent a brief time at This Song Is Sick, and just basically realized that I loved music and wanted to make a career out of it. So when I went to school for it, I sort of got pretty deep into the business side of things, and I actually quickly realized that there was a pretty noticeable ceiling in terms of the creative output and in terms of what you could do in the music industry as a creative individual. So around 2017, I fell into the crypto world as somewhere that gave me the sovereignty to still explore music as a hobby, but didn't force me to rely on it as my primary income stream. So, the past 3 or 4 years, I've been really deep in the crypto rabbit hole, covering a bunch of tokens, working with a bunch of projects building in the space. And then as of the past 2 months, recently joined up with Audius and sort of had the best of both worlds come together and, working on strategy side there and doing everything I can to help out.
That's cool. So I didn't realize that you came from This Song Is Sick. So obviously, I mean, it sounds like you found a way to marry the two passions that you have, which is, I mean, that's a lucky position to be in. What can you, for those that may have never heard of it before today, can you quickly, what's Audius about?
Yeah, it's a streaming protocol to give creators new ways to engage with their fans. So you think about something like SoundCloud or Spotify, and while it might be the de facto way to stream your music, creators typically are sort of boxed out of getting paid from their work or engaging directly with the people who support them. And so with Audius, we want to create a platform where those creators really own the platform. That's everything from the features that are on it to the payments that happen underneath the hood, and just give them different tools to better build communities and sort of make a living off of music. I think we're living in a difficult time when creative work is being largely neglected. A lot of creatives are really struggling to get by, and here at Audius, we want to do everything we can to help empower them to make a living.
Whoops, sorry about that. I muted myself. Sorry, guys. So yeah, this is just the feed here of what like Audius looks like on the platform. If you aren't on there yet, check it out. It's really quick and easy to sign up. You don't need to know anything about crypto or anything, obviously, like just to get on there. But I started up account, so check it out. Follow me on there. You were talking about, so what is it that obviously, like we remember the glory SoundCloud uh, days and stuff, and so what is it that like I've heard people talk about it like it's sort of like SoundCloud, but it's a lot better, and without getting, I guess getting in, we're gonna get into like all the nitty gritty of blockchain and crypto and stuff, but like how, like where are the gaps that you see that like could be improved, and what is Audius doing to sort of fill those gaps?
Yeah, for sure. So first and foremost, just analytical data, right? The fact that you can't connect directly with the fans who listen to your music, and there's no way for them to directly support you monetarily speaking. That's two things that we're really excited about. So as a creator on Audius, you can customize your own streaming rates, and you can basically dictate who listens to your music. This is something that's really important from sort of a token permissioned world. So what this means is you can sort of control not only how much you're charging per stream, but also who's able to access that content based on different parameters, if they're following you, if they've supported your content in the past, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that, Audius, what makes it really cool to me is just having more modularity over how you distribute and share content on the platform. This is no longer just upload a track to the feed, go to some of your buddies and hope that they repost it. We really want to give creators a lot of tools to be able to help them distribute their content in new and exciting ways. And we're hoping and betting on the fact that, by giving these creators these tools, that they can rally communities much stronger than they could on something like SoundCloud. And this is what we're seeing today on like Discord, Twitch, like we're seeing right here. These community and these creator economies are extremely important, and we want to help support them and kind of give you the tools to help create those. And we think that that's sort of where things are headed, and a great way for creators to be able to help further develop their career.
So I've noticed that, I mean, probably the first experience I had with Audius was noticing that people that I follow, like RAC and Boys Noise, uh, you know, musicians and artists who I follow their careers and love their music, that they're putting new content, new tracks, new music up there, and so would you say like at that level, like would you see that these guys are kind of moving away from, or what is it like? What's different? For example, if I follow RAC on Spotify, which I do, then what's different with like why should I go follow on like Audius like also today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're really trying to encourage artists to upload exclusive content to Audius. So like from a high level, something that you could only stream on Audius, I think is the most, clear definition of that. Obviously, that's totally up to the artist. That's not something that we can dictate. So what we want to do is give them to reasons to make those uploads exclusive to Audius for very specific reasons. So, for example, all of the streaming on Audius is in extremely high audio quality. It's been very favorable to people uploading mixes and sort of long form content. Right. And I think there's a number of parameters that artists are not just releasing singles these days. They're hopping on podcasts, they're doing mixes, they're doing remixes, and just recognizing that it's not just a single or an album economy anymore, and helping to give people a place to share that type of content, frankly, the same type of content that made SoundCloud so great back in the day. That's what we're banking on as the thing that really helps separate us and stand apart.
Cool. And then so from the artist perspective, it sounds like just off the top, that's like a new uh, area to put to share different types of content that might not fit, like you said, like a straight single or an EP sort of format. And I noticed that you've got some, like for example, there was a new like Mr. Carmack remix of Anderson .Paak that was up there. I noticed you got people like Rez and Deadmau5 who are like, were pretty active in this space already. Um, what what else? I know you're talking about sort of being able to compensate artists. Like, what is the for someone that doesn't know, like Bitcoin? They're like, do you need to be involved in Bitcoin? Do you have to like have some crypto to start with all this? Like, where would you start if you didn't know anything about it before?
Yeah. So, really important to recognize that you don't have to have any crypto knowledge to get started on Audius. We're built on top of the Ethereum blockchain, which from like a technological standpoint has a lot of advantages. But as someone who's never heard of crypto, never touched it, you sign up the same way you would with SoundCloud. It's just an email and password login. Every Audius account comes with its own wallet though, which means that you can store tokens in it. And so we have this platform called audio tokens, which basically represent ownership in the platform. As a user, you're not required to hold any audio to do anything from a listening or an uploading experience. But what we want to do over time is sort of tailor the interactions on Audius, the features that you can upgrade to, curation and everything like that. All that will be tied back into audio. And so it's really just like an opt-in model where it's not required by any means to get started. It's just the deeper you want to get into the platform and the more sophisticated you want to become as a user, that's where the audio token starts to influence that experience.
Okay, so if I'm a listener, I don't make any music. I just, I'm like, this sounds cool. I want to follow some of my favorite artists over there, and I get on the platform, and I noticed that I think you guys did like a drop or something, or you like shared some tokens for artists as well as listeners in the community. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So now I've got some audio tokens. So then, like, now what can I do, or what is what what's my next step?
Yeah, so today the first thing you can do is join a token permission Discord. This is something that's really important to train this token permission behavior I was talking about earlier. So in crypto, there's this big notion of hold X amount of tokens to unlock Y amount of content.
Okay.
And we just want to start this off really light. If you hold one audio token, you can join this token permission Discord channel where the only people who are in there are other people who hold audio tokens.
Okay.
This is the very tip of the iceberg. And what we want to do over the coming year here is introduce more of those features, right? So you can think about commenting, DMs, reposts, follow chains, everything like this, and basically attach it to the amount of audio tokens that you hold. So as a listener of Audius, your ability to experience more content and to get more in touch with those creators sharing the content, that will be directly tied to your audio, which can be earned from using the platform.
Okay, and just to make sure that we're clear here, so am I spending the tokens, or just having say like X amount of tokens will allow me to like talk to you directly or RAC directly or something?
Yeah, just holding them. You'll never have to spend the tokens. There's no transactions made in audio tokens, and there's no form of payment exchange in the token. The token is ownership in the platform and allows you to unlock different benefits by having those tokens in your wallet.
Got it. Okay, so there's a question in the chat here from Omai saying, so this upgrade model, does it apply to both uploaders and listeners, or are they separate entities?
Yeah, so I think that they're one and the same audience. Like many listeners are creators and many creators are listeners as well. And we want to create a system where we're not trying to only build features for creators and we're not only trying to build features for listeners. So, I'd say that as a creator, you're definitely going to have more flexibility in terms of what those audio tokens can do for you. But as a listener, I come from a background of being a curator, right? I like to be really early to finding music, sharing music, and discovering music. And one thing that I'm spending a lot of time on is what does this look like using audio as a listener of a platform? So in the future, we could imagine a system where you hold audio tokens. You basically are saying, I think this artist is going to be really popular, so I'm going to subscribe my tokens to them. And then as they do better and they sort of get more streams and they aggregate more rewards, you can also capture some of that growth as well. So that's like one very clear example of how, as a listener, these tokens allow you to have curation mechanisms that just haven't historically been possible and do things on a listening and fan engagement side that you never have been able to do in the past.
So that's really interesting as an artist to hear you talk about, and I would like to go a little further. Maybe we're already going down the rabbit hole, but it doesn't really matter because it's my show. Uh, but I've heard like Andre RAC talk about this more and more, and he's clearly also been into crypto for a long time, and with the rollout of his last album and the cassette and the social token, which we're going to get into, which is essentially what I think you're talking about. First off, I guess from the first level, I guess it's almost thinking of it like a Patreon. Would that sort of be a parallel, like except as opposed to me giving you $5-10 a month for this, it's like I hold the tokens, and now I'm in this sphere, and maybe the next tier is like to have 50 tokens or 100 Cooper tokens or audio tokens, right? Does that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a distinction to be made between audio has its own Patreon system, right? So like as an Audius user, there's a Patreon system for the platform as a whole. And then within that, there's also individual creator economies. So a Patlock currency or an RAC currency, and they can have their own Patreon system within Audius. But the audio token is kind of that more generalized, wide set Patreon model, if that makes sense.
Got it. And then so when you said that, if I think this artist might have a lot of potential, like, because that sort of rung a bell with something that I've heard Andre say, which is talk about in interviews, which is sort of like a way to have ownership within the artists that that you love and that you follow, rather than just consuming with a like or a heart or saving a post or sharing a post. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because so, for example, I think. Or you think that I'm going to be the next Justice, with my new project or something, right? Mm-hmm. You're like, cool. I want to like buy in, sort of like an early investor of sorts, even if you're not really worried about getting rich off of it. You're like, cool. I want to be early on the buy-in. So, what does that sort of path look like? I mean, so if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I'll preface that by saying it's still very early. This isn't something that's live in the product today and probably won't be for quite some time. This is how I'm personally thinking about it. So these are just my opinions.
Sure.
But from an Audius standpoint, it's really important to recognize that the audio token, I'll say it again and again, it represents ownership in the platform. So there's not a company behind Audius that's getting all of the network fees or revenue coming into the product. All of that is being shared with audio holders and the people that are using the platform. Mm-hmm. So that's really important off the bat. And then on a creator side of things, this is dependent on how much the creator wants to lean into the system. So you don't have to, as a creator, give any of your royalties back to your fans. You don't have to give them any percent of the royalties that you're generating. But in spirit of like these Patreon models and this Discord and Twitch model, I think that sharing these streams with your fans are incredibly powerful tools, right?
Right.
And so with audio and Audius, we want to create rails to allow you to do that. So basically, you could think of this as like a funding pool pretty much. So as an artist on Audius, let's say I get $100 in royalties 1 month. Maybe I choose to give $10 of that back to my contributors, and then share that pro rata relative to the amount that they are contributing to me. And so we can kind of create these cycles where as an artist, I'm able to empower my fans depending on the amount that they want to go out of my way and support me. And I think one thing to touch on there that's powerful is like, historically in music, all you could do is if you're early to an artist is share them and say like, hey, I was following this guy for 5 years. Like I was there on day one. Yeah. There's not really a way to prove that. Right. But with this system, you have a tangible incentive to do so. So if you share new music, your fans who are subscribed to you have a direct incentive to go and share that. And I think that that's like a really powerful system that allows creators to, again, better build communities and just sort of better strengthen the relationship they have with those fans.
Right. So if I understand, you're talking about tangible proof that, so if I issue my own Patlock token, they're numbered on the blockchain, so you could be like, I have the first issuance, like 00001 or whatever that is, right? And
yeah, so I'd say it's probably more about like the I've held this token for 3 years rather than like the exact number of the token itself. Right. But that kind of is a good segue into like the digital art stuff if you want to talk about that, because that digital art piece is far more on the notion of like I own number 001.
Yeah, so I guess to preface like this segue already, we're moving away from the music, which it's all kind of interconnected, which I love, is my introduction to this space and to even Audius was noticing that uh, first following Andre's cassette, limited RAC cassette and the social token, and then he issued this NFT, which can you explain what an NFT is? I'm just going to pull it up right now.
Yeah, I can. NFT stands for non-fungible token. This is a digitally scarce asset, which means that you can prove that it is limited in quantity and provable to a specific owner. So what you're going to pull up there with an NFT, it's a piece of artwork that there's only one of them in existence, and the owner of that token can say that I am the owner of this piece of art that you're looking at, and I can prove that because I own this one token that only exists in one place. There's none of them. There's no other ones of those in existence.
Got it. So the one that we're looking at right now on the screen is, I believe, the first. Oh, this might be the second one. No, I think this is the. Yeah, this might be the second one. This is one of RAC's two NFTs that he's done. Do you remember? Because it's on the screen cap right now. This one's Elephant Dreams, and
yeah, it's the first one.
And this first one auctioned off at approximately $26,000 US. I think that was. That was, I think, when a lot of artists and people in the industry maybe probably started paying closer attention and asking questions like, what is an NFT? And what is what are you guys doing over there? And can you speak to just this whole world? Like, I mean, because I think we're throwing a lot of words around that, when I first got into it, I was like, this is all Greek, and every day I'm like looking up, something new. But so where does where would you go and bid on something like this? And are they all? Is this only a rich person's game? All of that. What do you have to explain yourself?
Yeah, lots of questions there. I think so. I actually just pulled it up on the stream, and that's actually the second NFT that Andre did. You mentioned that one sold for $26,000. His first one actually sold for $70,000, which is really interesting. Just to answer your short question, is this a rich people's game? In the context of someone like RAC releasing a one-of-one NFT, absolutely a rich person's game. But taking a step back from that, NFTs are nothing more than an extension of a brand. It's a way for you to basically package up an instantiation or a creation and put it on a blockchain or somewhere that people can buy it. And so we have platforms like Super Rare, which basically allow you to create these digital assets and have people bid on them and collect them. And so we're seeing this whole ecosystem form in crypto where there's a lot of platforms like Super Rare where people can create digitally scarce assets. They can allow people to purchase and collect them, and then they can define the quantity of that. So for RAC's Elephant Dreams, this was a one-of-one token, meaning there's only this one instance of this piece of work, and that's why it had such a high price tag. But on other platforms, we're seeing people making 10 of 10s or hundreds of hundreds, which means that there's 10 of the item or 100 of the item, or even in the case of someone like Beeple, open edition, which means for a fixed period of time, anyone can mint a number of these assets, and that's the total amount that will ever exist. And so you can kind of see here that you can be really flexible as a creator about sort of the scarcity and the intent behind these assets. But what I like to liken it to is if I have a digital creation that I were to put a tangible value behind and monetize it, NFTs are the way to do that, and something that's only going to get more and more prevalent over the coming years here.
And from the music side of things, I know that Andre is working with a digital artist. His name is long, and Andres, what's his name, just so I don't mess it up?
I don't know how to pronounce the last one, but yeah, it's Andres for sure.
Andres, yeah, Andre and Andres. He's, for the record, just to put it into perspective, I think Andre is probably, not only is he writing original music to go along with this, which for some reason I didn't load, or maybe, oh, there it is. Should have been playing the whole time. You guys can hear. So that's the original piece of music from Elephant Dreams, Part 2. I just want to pull up this one from Blau, who has been crushing it in this space for a while now. It looks, every time I look at the auction price of one of his pieces, it kind of blows my mind. But what's really interesting is that it seems like there are multiple platforms and a wide variety of styles artistically. I mean, I've always had a direct hand in the type of art that accompanies, whether that's a mix series or an EP or an album cycle. My last two EP cycles, I've done like animated shorts and scripted the whole thing, and it's interesting to see that, like, I mean, in this world of NFTs, like, it kind of, some of it's very postmodern, some of it's very minimalist, some of it's more more scenic, like Andre's style is very it's obvious, it feels like an RAC piece as well. um, for those tuning in, just joining us, we are here with Cooper Turley of Audius, talking about all things crypto and Audius and what that means. And right now we're just talking about digital NFTs, which is sort of the art component that we are seeing more and more musicians get into. I saw that Boys Noise has done a couple of collabs, and that also feels very much like him, which is really cool. We've got a question in here from Priskillinit asking if an NFT can be shared among more than one user. How does that work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the same way that you can share a picture of the Mona Lisa, you can share NFTs completely freely. And that actually adds to the value of that NFT, sort of the awareness and the notoriety behind it. But the key thing here is the provenance, right? So the owner of that asset and their ability to choose to display it and share it in the ways that they see fit. So we're looking at Elephant Dreams right now. There's one owner of that token. Everyone can see who that owner is. And it's totally up to them to dictate how they want to use that, display it, and basically transpose it in the digital age.
Got it. And then, so what is, I mean, the first thing that people seem to ask, or when I've, shared Super Rare around, because I really love the stuff on Super Rare, but there's, obviously other platforms to look and buy art, is people go like, why can't I just, screen cap this or just download this GIF? And like, what's the difference there?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'll be quite frank. I don't think there is a huge difference. Like, if you want to screen cap it and use it somewhere else, you're more than welcome to. Kind of back to my example of the Mona Lisa. If you want to take a picture of that and frame it in your wall, you're more than welcome to. I think it's the original piece that has that core inherent value of that. And with digital assets and with NFTs, there's no way to try and fake that, right? You can't go ahead and use that token in a game or in a different ecosystem that supports NFTs. It's very easy to tell what the true one is and who the true owner of that is. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's where the true value comes from. I know this is like very difficult to conceptualize in a digital world where everything is so freely shareable, downloadable, and easy to be copied. But I think, the more time that I spend in the space, I do think that there's a lot of people who understand digital scarcity. And this is exactly why we're seeing cryptocurrency take off, because it's just entirely new medium of value transfer that's completely new to this age that we're living in today.
Got it. Yeah, I think I heard someone make the analogy to like a Yeezy drop, where you're going to mm-hmm. have knockoffs of things, but the collectors that are very passionate, they're going to know, and within their circles, their friends or whatever, their group chats, you're going to be like, oh, look, I've got 1 of 5 or 2 of 2 or 1 of 1, and it's the value as I think art is the market is wherever people ascribe it, mm-hmm. choose it to be. Right now we're looking at one of my favorite very prolific artists. This is a work from Pack. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Layered yep. Routine, just really interesting type of art. So on that point, before we get back into the music side, I've heard that with the original artist, they're also benefiting from the work, like these digital NFTs, like in perpetuity. And how can you talk about how that works?
Yeah, so different platforms have different secondary sale mechanics baked directly into the artwork itself, which okay. means after that first primary sale, where I as the creator sell it to you as the buyer, there's something baked into the contracts that every time that buyer sells it to someone else, mm-hmm. I as the original creator get a small fraction of that. And this is really important because we see a lot of the times with limited goods, the primary creator only gets that first primary sale. There right. end up being huge secondary markets, and there's no way to capture that value. Mm-hmm. But with Ethereum and smart contracts, this sort of cryptocurrency-based layer, we can bake that directly into the NFT itself, mm-hmm. and then make it happen on chain, where it's not as much a reliance on the buyer to do it on a social agreement. It happens baked directly into technology and happens automatically, so there's no need for trust or anything like that.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty groundbreaking concept in like traditional artists. As I mentioned this concept to my friend who I've been working with for the past couple of years, and she's like, that's a huge, secondary sales. You take someone like a legend, almost like a Basquiat, like like they sell it the first time, but it's not for maybe decades, years or decades later. It keeps appreciating in value, and they're only that doesn't help them. I mean, it helps their notoriety for maybe future works, but they're
Hmm.
not they're not able to monetize the work that they've already done, which is really what we're talking about here. It's like just because I
Hmm.
flipped it for $100 or $500, but now it's priced at 100 grand. It doesn't mean that the original creator should starve, and I think that that's uh, really important to think about in these times when artists are really struggling. We often see the threads railing against the streaming platforms, uh, or we get our royalty statements and are going, "Oh my
Hmm.
God, like what happened here?" I thought my new single got millions and millions of plays, like so let's link it back to music for a second. I'll catch up on the chat just for a second. Um, Proclaiming ownership seems to mean some creators. So yeah, I'm really curious. Um, so with the current landscape, I know that you had sent some slides over, and I didn't really get a chance to look at them. So maybe let's like pop those open real quick and get back onto music for a second. Uh,
Hmm.
Back to Audius, which is what brings you in today. Let me see if I can find it. Right. So you had sent this over, and I promise, guys, this is not going to turn into a PowerPoint, but I thought this was pretty relevant to. I think we've got a lot of like up and coming artists um, that watch these shows, and people wondering, like what's the path? And to be frank with you, it's been obviously a challenging year for many of us for different reasons. But also, I think for myself this year was feeling like the system's a bit broken, and people have been saying it for a while. But I'm not sitting here being like, oh, like Spotify owes me more money. I understand like who the owners are, of Spotify, the investors, majors. It's like they don't have the way they're set up. It's not like they have more money to give me. I can't
Right.
demand 50 cents a play, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, like let's have a look at at this slide 4 real quick. Let me try and zoom in on this just to explain a little bit. Like, if you get a million plays on something, what does that actually mean in terms of like how much money you made as an artist? I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah. So, obviously this is dependent on the platform that you get that million streams on. So I won't try and make a catch-all assumption here. I
Mm-hmm.
think that it's safe to assume though that across every streaming platform today, the artists are only taking home a really, really small percentage of that, both on the platform itself, so something like Spotify or Apple Music, or when it comes to the labels, managers, and the other team members involved. At the end of the day, the artist is taking home about 12% of the total revenue on every stream that they receive. This is something that we really wanted to try and design for and sort of change from a foundational level so that when there is income that comes back to an artist, they are capturing the lion's share of that. And so if you go to the fifth slide here around sort of the Spotify platform fee, you can see that Spotify today takes about 88% of every dollar that's earned on the platform and
Mm-hmm.
keeps that among themselves, major record labels, and back office services. And so, like I said on this last slide, this leaves the artist with about 12% of the puzzle.
Right.
And that 12% is then shared amongst the label, it's shared amongst the managers, it's shared amongst everyone on the team. And what we want to do here at Audius is just completely flip that around. So instead of there being 12% to the artist, we want to send 90% back to the artist and keep 10% to compensate the network. What's really important to emphasize here is Audius takes 0% of streaming revenue. That 10% that you see there is intentionally marked as network operators. And this is people like you, right? These are people who hold audio tokens. These are people who are securing the network. This is not Audius as a company making a bottom dollar. This is other people who are supporting the network and its growth. And so like this paradigm of giving artists as much of the pie as possible and then sharing the remainder with the people who help keep the thing going is drastically different from a company that's optimizing for profit, revenue, their next seed round, their next Series A round, and sort of just looking at that from a different way. And we believe that this design will allow artists to be much more profitable over the long term and allow them to capture a lot more of the value that they create.
So you mentioned network operators, and I think like that may be a bit opaque for someone that like is just signed up for an Audius account. So what is you're saying that 10% of the revenue captured is your model is dedicated towards them. So what does that mean? Are these like devs or?
Yeah, so I'm conscious of going very technical here, so I'm going to keep it short and try and contextualize it as much as possible. So on Audius, all of the content that is stored on the platform is stored by node operators. So this is people around the world that are running hardware to store that content.
Right.
This is drastically different from SoundCloud, where SoundCloud is the company is storing all the content.
Mm-hmm.
And so that 10% you see there is being directed to people like those node operators. It's not only them. Other examples of this are people who are curating content, listeners who are helping to stream content, artists who are actually bringing in revenue to the platform. And so like that bucket is kind of a catch-all to anyone adding value to the network. But the key difference here is that Audius, the company, is not the one creating that value. It's everyone that's using the network. And that's why we're sharing it with them directly rather than keeping it siloed to us as a company.
Right. That is interesting that, you're not, Audius is not hosting the files, and it's not the backbone of the network, like, or Audius the company is not, right? I think I heard another interview with some of your colleagues where they said if Audius the company were to cease existing, the hope would be that the network would remain, which is the interesting part of, I guess, the whole concept of blockchain. Like, it's not as if like MySpace, people were uploading their beats, and a lot of great household names that we know now got their start on MySpace, and then of course MySpace became history, and all of that was gone. So I would ask, like, how does that affect looking at previous streaming platforms? And I don't know if you would call it just a streaming platform, because it sounds like there's a lot of possibilities here. How does it affect how you sort of plan to grow the platform?
Yeah, I think it's about longevity and about consistency, right? So like when you upload your tracks onto SoundCloud today, if SoundCloud were to shut its doors, all of that content you uploaded to SoundCloud would be gone forever. With Audius, we're creating a protocol that anyone can access the content that's uploaded to our system, which means that if Audius, the company, closes its door, that network will continue to live on. All of the content you've uploaded there will continue to live on. And other entities will be able to tap into this content too, right? So Audius can be seen as kind of this bedrock to upload and distribute content, but other people, we encourage them to come and utilize that content on games that they're building, on platforms that they're building, applications, et cetera, et cetera. And we want to kind of create this ecosystem where, Audius is just storing this endless amount of valuable content. And over the history of the existence of the internet, it'll be there in perpetuity for people to be able to tap into and access.
Got it. We've got some math people in the chat who are saying, how does this work with this? So does this account for like people that are signed to majors? I mean, I've noticed that you've got some very large artists on there. Are they all independent artists?
No. So there's a lot of artists that are signed to major labels here. The important thing to keep in mind is every artist is responsible for the distribution of their own income on the platform. So like, for example, someone like a deadmau5 has a huge team behind him, has had major label backing. Some of his catalog is signed to major labels. Audius as a company does not steward that payment rail so much as we offer the tools for people to be able to have that conversation themselves, right? So when you're talking about monetization, it's the exact same way as you would claim monetization on Spotify or SoundCloud. The difference here being that, that artist is fully in control of that payment system and sort of making sure that all the responsible parties get paid in the way that they're supposed to.
Okay, I see. Yeah, it's the pie is a different pie if you have a major. I mean, I think someone also mentioned that in the chat. Like, I mean, you agree to the terms that you have. Someone was saying 88 to 12 is. You guys are talking about too many numbers for me to catch up here. Not a label.
You're saying math guys in the chat.
Yeah, 80%. So, for context here, I can say that, indie, and you feel free to chime in with your experience as an artist manager. but indie labels will often take anywhere from 50 to 70%. So that means 30 to 50% coming to the artist piece of the pie, and majors will be taking more of that classic sort of 80-20 thing. I did see someone say like, why are the labels taking all that money, and that's a much bigger question for another day. I mean, this is the way the system has developed, I would say, over the last 150, what are we at, 100 years, 100 plus years, right?
Yeah.
um, but let me just catch up here. So what happens if you're signed to a major and then go through Audius? So it sounds like, yeah, you would need to sign off, but it seems like you can get different conversations going. There was something in that same interview that I was like, this is kind of crazy. Where with I'm not like a tech person at all, even like a dev person, but I heard someone say that you could take a game and you could use an API to stream whatever was like trending on a specific chart in Audius and like route that through, and then it'd be monetized. So I don't know, whatever, Among Us or something, or if you were able to like choose your own soundtrack for that, have a big streamer of, if you're just a gamer, not just a gamer, but if you live in that sphere. I heard about something else where you could have kind of more geographic sensitive or maybe time sensitive, which going back to the art thing, limitations on the content. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah. So again, this notion of token permission blank, right? So for any content that lives on Audius, the artist can dictate exactly how that's streamed and by who. And so I'm thinking that the example you're referring to is, if I want to make it so someone can only listen to this content at 10 p.m. at night in a foreign mountain town in Southeast Asia, you can token permission those different aspects of the song and really customize the parameters around which people can access that content. To your point about like the API and sort of like what we're seeing on that front, as I said before, Audius is the bedrock for audio content, which means that we have a ton of content easily accessible, and we have tools to allow people to easily tap into that and stream it to their respective game, to their application, to their ecosystem, wherever it might be. It's like we have a Discord bot, for example, and like all those are kind of key examples of ways that the content that lives on Audius is not only accessible at audius.co, which is our main interface. It's accessible to anyone who wants to tap into that underlying network of content that we have being stored.
I mean, that's pretty exciting. Whereas, so if I was a game dev and I have the perfect game, and now I just need the soundtrack for it, I could approach you and go like, oh, like you already have a framework, rather than I have to set up 2-3 dozen different licenses with like different artists that I'm like emailing, talking to their management, going back and forth. I mean, it sounds, maybe I'm being very reductive here, and please correct me because I'm just spitballing as I go. It sounds like that's sort of the appeal on that side.
Yeah, so I will say that if you're using someone else's content, you do need all the permissions to be able to do that. But what we want to do to sort of expedite that process is have those permissions baked directly into the content itself, right? So when someone streams that piece of content on a stream, or when they stream it somewhere else, in a soundtrack, as you mentioned, you can have those payment obligations baked directly into the track, so that when someone pays $1 to access your stream and you're playing that music, it can go directly back to the creator all automatically, rather than today where it's like, hey, we made this money over here, now we're going to send you a PayPal and send you $100 on PayPal.
Right.
Just like remove the trust on that and have it all happen automatically is kind of the vision that we're trying to build towards.
Got it. So another question from the chat from Dash is, how does the revenue compare for an independent artist between Spotify and Audius and SoundCloud? Would Spotify no longer be 812? This is a great question because I actually have no idea how SoundCloud's revenue payouts work. I know that sometimes, I think I signed up with one of those sort of hinky, like, I mean, I won't call him out because I just call it hinky payouts. But I would hope. Like, do you have a perspective on that? If you were just starting today with an upload your new EP, and what's sort of as an independent artist, what does that look like on the different platforms?
Yeah, so I should be very clear that Audius does not have monetization enabled today, which means that people are not paying per stream to access your content. Going back to the point around like community development, we're really banking on, people being able to grow a deeper fan base through Audius that they will then be able to monetize on the back of.
Got it.
So things like selling merch, subscribing to Patreon, subscribing to Twitch, like building that community is sort of what exists today.
Yeah.
Is kind of the main benefit that we see. And then over the next 1 to 2 year, when monetization is turned on, I wouldn't even look at it as like the verse Spotify, because Spotify has a fixed amount of payment per stream. The way that we're looking at Audius is as a creator. I said this earlier, but I'll repeat it again. If you want to have one track that costs $1 for every stream, you can set that.
Right.
If you want to have one track that it's $20 to listen to it for the lifetime of the track,
right,
you can set that as well. If you want to make your whole page have every track cost a cent to stream or not cost anything at all,
right,
that's something you can also customize as well. So it's kind of like a different narrative that I don't have concrete data to back, but that I'm willing will be, pretty interesting relative to what's out there today.
Right. We're getting some props from Brett Blackman in the chat. He says, "Why are you both so cool?" Friend of the chat, friend of the show. That was a heck of a show. It was like a 6-hour chat, which we're not going to do today. Although I'm sure you can, just because my brain moves slowly when it comes to this stuff. So that what I don't want to gloss over what you just said, because that's really interesting. If I heard you correctly, you said I could charge, be like, to listen once, that could be $10 or $20, or I could grant rights for unlimited listens. And is that something that you guys are working towards, or is that already am I able to sort of set that up pretty soon?
Working towards, I'd say in the next year, this is something that's going to come online. What we're working towards today is ways for you to earn audio for your usage of the platform.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned, we have a token that represents ownership in the platform. It unlocks different features and entitles you to the way that the platform develops.
Yeah.
And sort of the prefacer to earning US dollars from streaming your content is earning audio tokens, which are kind of in and of itself a brand new medium, a brand new mechanism. And the way I like to liken this is if, when SoundCloud was popping off in 2013, as a creator of that platform, if I could capture some of the upside of SoundCloud's growth, we're trying to basically dog food that today with audio tokens and give people the ability to sort of shape the future of the platform as they see fit.
Got it. I will say that just looking at some of the exclusive content you're getting up there is giving it that sort of that vibe of the classic, this was what made SoundCloud pop. And I don't know that exists right now. Honestly, I don't use the main. It's okay. They don't watch this stuff anyways. For my own listening purposes, I really don't use the main DSPs unless I need to look up something, or if I'm there's a new major release from my friend's record, I want to go support it, so I'll go stream it so that I can add it to some playlists, and that's kind of gaming the system a little bit. But personally, I will go sometimes back on SoundCloud, often YouTube, now Audius. It's it seems like that is an energy that is bubbling up that you guys have got going on.
Totally. And you mentioned something really important there. So when you go out of your way to support your friends on Spotify, when you're streaming their content, they're not getting the profits of your stream there. You might pay $10 a month, but that $10 is not going to them. It's going to the entire global network of Spotify plays, of which a very, very small fraction of that is going to the artist. And the thing that's novel here about Audius is that when you stream someone's content on Audius, you're making that payment directly to the artist. There's no intermediary. There's no sort of Spotify in the middle to issue you that payment 3 months later. All of that happens in real time and happens directly with the artists themselves. So I think that's part of the reason why people are excited about that. And to your point about the buzz on the platform, we're seeing a lot of traction in the bass community right now. Ton of amazing remixes on there, ton of amazing mixes on there. We're starting to expand into hip hop and then soon into podcasting. And so I think that you're going to see, Audius as a platform really start to blow up over the coming year here.
Yeah, and that it's quite exciting. I think also from the standpoint of, let's say, people in the chat who are in the Discord, we talk a lot about what a good label deal might look like, or how to handle distribution, to use TuneCore, DistroKid, or et cetera, and I think realizing that the conversation has shifted a little bit, and that was something that it almost been tip of the tongue for a while for me, and then all of a sudden, maybe because of the events of this year, I was like, yeah, actually things do seem broken, and who's changing things and what is interesting. And I do think that the community side of things which you guys speak to, and I think is also a buzzword that is thrown around a
Mm-hmm.
lot in marketing for music or
Yep.
entertainment. This is literally a community, and so if you were starting a new project tomorrow and you went on Audius and you're building again kind of from the ground up, but that is very different, it seems to me, than someone that clicks follow, or even just someone that's like a passive listener on a Spotify, Apple
Mm-hmm.
Music, literally just dinner music, or like I'll just put random things on when I'm cleaning the house or working out or whatever, and like I don't even know what I was listening to. That's very different from someone
Totally.
who we're engaged in it. There's tokens. Let's talk about the social token aspect for a
Yeah.
second. Um, so there's the audio token, and then let's use RAC because it's a very concrete example. Can you give me your understanding of like what does that all mean? So my if I were to get uh, or try to acquire some like an RAC token, or you try to get a padlock token, how does that usually sort of start? Like if you're an artist, how do you start creating that? Like it's kind of weird to be like, am I selling shares of myself? Or a lot of questions for you.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So, every creator token is different depending on the level that creator wants to lean into it. There's a lot of platforms out there today that help you very easily issue and create your own token. In the case of RAC, his token is access to exclusive benefits in his community. So he has a Patreon and a Twitch, and then holding this token basically gets you into a private group that then offers you discounts on merchandise. When shows come back, discounts on shows, meet and greets, and stuff like that. And so, like, community token is kind of like what this is being touted as in crypto land, where basically, going back to the token permission example, the more RAC coins that I hold, the larger of benefits I get within that community, right?
Okay.
So I can have 10 tokens to get into the group, but then if I hold 100 tokens, I might get some more exclusive benefits. And then if I hold 1,000 tokens, have more than that. And why that's really important is that, RAC as an artist now is no longer beholden to his community only existing on Discord over here, Twitch over here, Audius over here, SoundCloud over here. That RAC token is the connective glue behind all of those platforms and allows you to basically capture and take that community with you wherever you go, regardless of the platform that you exist on.
So, do you think that there's a certain point? Let's say you've got a couple of releases under your belt. Like, is there a point at which you feel? I mean, we're really spitballing right now, but play along with me. And what is that sort of tipping point where you're like, okay, like maybe now it's time? Like, do you have to have a couple tours under your belt, you think, to issue a token, or do you think that there would be value there for someone with dedicated hundreds or like low thousands of like listeners and people like sharing your music, and
Mm-hmm.
that might help foster even more growth there?
Yeah, so there's definitely no set point about the amount of like accolades you need to have create a token. I'm actually thinking that we're going to see a pretty strong wave of creators building an entire following on the back of a social token. I think the thing to optimize for here is the amount of true fans that you have, right?
Right.
So like there's the common saying in the music industry, 1,000 true fans is what you need to exist as an artist. And if it's 10 true fans, if it's 20 true fans, just like real humans who you're interacting with on a day-to-day basis,
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you have a community of those people, that's a great starting point.
Mm-hmm.
And when it gets to a point where you want to further engage those humans to offer them like better benefits and to better connect them to one another, right? So if you have fans that are fans of yours but might not know each other very well, the token is a way to better align those people, get them talking, having conversations, sharing merchandise, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's a good framework, to focus on. And why I think this is really important is because, in music, we look at monthly listeners, we look at the number of followers on Instagram, and we think that that's success. But in
Right.
my mind, the artist of tomorrow is like, how many people are on your Discord? How many people go out of their way every day to say, hello, good morning. Like, I listened to your recent remix and I really liked it. And
Mm-hmm.
like those true and pure connections are sort of what I believe that artists should be optimizing for, and one that fits in really well with this whole social token narrative.
Got it. I think I understand. uh, I would be remiss if I didn't answer all of the questions that come through. Let me just catch up real quick. We're here with Cooper Turley of Audius talking about how they are changing streaming and music platforms for artists and listeners. Um, so the question is, yeah, how? Sorry, Oh my, share for share. Okay, so I think it's sort of a two-parter. One question that I've seen a couple times is when it comes to things like copyright, like uh, is there a position or is there anything like anything to prevent you from like taking my last album and uploading it and calling it yours? What can I do, or what will Audius do?
Yeah. So the copyright infringement system on Audius is the exact same as it would be on SoundCloud. You know, as a creator who has their copyright or their music infringed, you make a claim to have that taken down.
Okay,
The key thing to differentiate here is that you're not making a claim to Audius as a company. You're making a claim to the network of node operators. So what this looks like is basically a governing body of everyone who's upholding the platform coming together and saying, this claim is valid. That person should not have the content on the platform, and then taking it down. So it's like a little bit of a structural change underneath, but I should be very open and clear that, you know, Audius does not support copyright infringement. We want to do everything we can to prevent that and help people address that when it happens. You know, it's just in a slightly different way than what you're kind of commonly used to with submitting a claim directly to the company that's behind that platform.
got it. I'm curious. Are the bots going to be? Is that something that is part of the the takedown bots? Is that part of the framework or the network, or is it kind of a different thing that you guys are staying away from?
Yeah. So we don't have takedown bots today necessarily. Like we rely on the actors on the network to help identify these issues. And this is where something like audio becomes really important, is because in the long term, you know, we envision a system where you can get paid to arbitrate on the platform, you know, basically earn audio tokens for being an actor who says this person shouldn't own that copy. They shouldn't have it uploaded. So I'm going to make that claim for the artist.
Right.
But I think that's structurally different than, like you said, you know, I can't speak confidently to whether or not we'll have a bot that does that in the future, but I know that, you know, we're really relying on our users and the creators to police their own content and be able to help identify when infringement happens.
Got it. Uh, Another question here for you from Appa Yip Yip. What's the biggest
Nice name.
challenge? Yeah, a lot of underscores in there. What's the biggest challenge in getting both artists and listeners to adopt these new crypto paradigms?
hmm Great question. I think it's number one, education, right? It's a really, really complex system. It's a complex new learning curve to go through. Um, I don't expect everyone to get it on the first try. You know, as someone who's worked in crypto for like 4 years, like this is incredibly obvious to me that this is where the future is headed, but it's not, it doesn't click right away to people, right? So it's about training them on these mental models around ownership, around governance, and around control over their data and their listeners, and trying to help them understand that, you know, using Audius is a way to lean into sovereignty. Like as an artist and a creator, you know, you have the freedom to basically dictate your payments, your fans, your analytics. And I think that this premise is something that's largely only accessible in Web3 and crypto, and one that we're hoping becomes like the main sell for anyone that's looking to get started on Audius today.
I will say, to round out that point, is it's refreshing to think that we might have a whole new wave or current wave of artists that aren't as focused on like, did I hit this play? Did we get this playlist because someone, a kingmaker, I'm really not making any friends with this one, happened to Dane, this song like we're, but uh, but moving towards like, hey, I could have this track going back to some of the technical stuff that you said that we can build into this. Is like you can only listen to this EP on a plane, whatever, at a certain altitude. Like it's a totally different conversation, and that's why I'm here, and that's why you're here. Like, I mean, it's interesting. It's like, oh, like we've been playing this same old game for like a while now, and what else is possible?
Yeah.
It's I think the limitations are really. I mean, because I'm just starting to get my head around a little bit, but understanding step by step like that, it's kind of like I don't know if it is considered Web3, but like it feels like a new internet the way when I'm trying to talk to other people about it.
Yep. And I think that curation element's something that like I was really passionate about. The first time that I read the Audius white paper like 2.5 years ago, I was immediately sold on this notion of me being able to earn something as a curator of a network. You know, when we look at Spotify today, it's either a kingmaker where they're obligated to list a song that's coming from a certain label, or someone who's engaging in payola and basically getting paid to place a track on their playlist. But with Audius, we want to really incentivize curators to curate strong content. And what this means is that if I playlist a track and someone listens to my playlist, that means that I can get paid either in the form of audio tokens or in the form of a fraction of that royalty for being the one that delivers that value to the creator. And I think that's important because we believe that this is going to lead to better curation. This is going to lead to people not being as willing to take backdoor payments because there's ways for them to earn from organic curation as opposed to not so above board curation, I'll say, like, lightly.
Yeah, I think the notion of or the value we place around curation uh, has sort of evolved, and there's a reason why like KCRW is still, I feel like their listenership is probably the strongest ever. I take them very seriously, and I have my favorite DJs on there, regardless of what genres that they play. And I think this is kind of expanding maybe the next mode of that framework. Cooper, it's been like a really fast hour. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Let me just catch up on some of these questions. But are there any things that you'd want to talk about that is related to this big conversation that we're having, that we're starting today?
Yeah, so this is going to be a very technical one. I don't expect a lot of people in the chat to grok this, but I'll say it anyway. So today we kicked off staking rewards on Audius, which means that everyone who's helping to secure the network is now getting audio tokens for doing so. This is like
Cool.
a pretty structural, monumental upgrade that happened today. So it's something that we're really excited about. This means if you own audio tokens, you can basically put those to work and earn rewards for helping to secure the network. And it's something that, from that decentralized kind of crypto vein of things, is kind of like a very big piece of the puzzle. So, the key takeaway here is that Audius is chugging along quite smoothly. Our roadmap is going exactly according to plan, and I'm very confident in this next year and sort of what we have in store. So appreciate everyone coming out and just kind of hearing more about what we have to offer here.
Amazing. Oh, two final questions for you on the way out from MDA. This is an interesting one. I've created some Clayton Fox. What did I miss? You're gonna have to rewatch this one, man. Yeah, just need to sum it up in just one sentence. I've created some unique sample packs for producers to cook with. I would like to release very limited tokenized copies. This is a really interesting question. Is this possible in your expertise, and what suggestions would you have based on where to start?
Yeah, so I will say that like the token permission element is probably a little bit more convoluted today. One of the good things about Audius though is that remix contests are very actively supported on the platform. So when you go to upload a track to Audius, you can upload specific stems of that piece of content, and then basically permission who's able to download that. So you can say like, hey, you can only download this if you follow me, and then basically start to grow an audience by people downloading those stems, submitting them as remixes onto the platform, and you being able to give it a seal of approval and saying like, this remix is sick, I'm giving it a like, which shows up on our display and saying, this artist approves of this remix. I'd say for the more like, how do I sell limited editions of those stems, there's a platform called Catalog that's working on this exact thing. It's coming live like January, February of next year. So please follow up with me. If you want to keep this conversation going, my DMs are open on Twitter, and I'm always talking to, new artists just looking to explore Web3 and these crypto primitives. So I would love to keep that conversation going and kind of keep you in the loop on what that might look like.
Dope. I'm just putting your Twitter in the chat here. Yeah, I think that's the beautiful thing about this world is you can follow the thread wherever your interests lie. I spent a couple of weeks playing like Axie Infinity, like hardcore,
Nice.
And I was like, I think I understand this crypto thing, but I had no idea. Basically it's Pokemon for those that aren't familiar with Axie. I mean, that's the simplest way I could describe it, and like you can breed them. And I was like, I think I get it. And then it wasn't until I put them up for auction that I realized that there was a whole world being built where people were speculating on land, and I was like, wow, like it just galaxy.
Including myself, let's
right?
be honest. I have a lot of Axies. I played that game for quite a long time.
Yeah, it's a really interesting and expansive world. My final question for you before we let you go is, how do I get some audio tokens?
Yeah, so I'd say continue to be a power user of the platform. I don't want to give away like concrete examples of how to earn today, but if you look on our blog, we're starting to release a lot of resources about behaviors that we encourage users to take. So for example, curating playlists, hosting remix contests, et cetera, et cetera. If you look back at our first audio drop, we broke down that distribution relative to the amount of streams you had, the amount of playlist likes you had, the amount of reposts that you gave other content. And, that's kind of like a starting point. We're going to continually evolve on this and want the community to be involved in this discussion. But, go out of your way and just please upload content to the platform, engage with other people's content, try out our new features. And I think that, over time, there's going to be a lot of different ways to earn audio for doing those actions.
This sounds great. Dash says free tokens for Pat for this. I'm just quoting, reading the comments. That's awesome. All right, well, Cooper, it's been a very enlightening chat. I think we're going to have a lot more questions for you, but we're also going to have a lot of fun. I know I'm going to have a lot of fun kind of exploring the platform and the community and seeing what else is possible, what else is in store. With art and music and the future of Web3 and blockchain. But I guess your links is Twitter the best way for people to holler at you with this questions about this stuff?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, great. Well, on that note, we're gonna let you go. We're gonna take a short water break here, and then I'm gonna get into some demos. Cooper, thank you so much. I'm gonna be asking you about the newest altcoin very soon.
Please do, man.
And where else? Because I know that you've got a few links. Where else do you also, when you're not doing Audius stuff, where else can we check out the stuff that you're working on and excited about? I know the Defiant. Do you have a hand in that as well?
Yeah, so the Defiant is a media outlet that I'm contributing to pretty regularly. This is where I'm writing about a lot of stuff happening in the crypto space. Granted, it is very specific. It's very crypto heavy, so I'll give that context off the bat. I'm very active on Discord and on Telegram. So in Patlock Discord now, I'm on there literally every day. So please, feel free to reach out to me. It's something that I try and be really active in these communities. So, I try and share a lot of work about NFTs on Twitter, and there's definitely a ton of stuff that I talk about outside of Audius too. This is a very, very big and exciting world. And so I hope that, the content I share can get you excited to learn a little bit more yourself.
Absolutely. I'm here for it. All right, Coop, we're going to let you get into your weekend. Thank you again so much. This is a great chat. And thanks to everyone in the chat for your great questions. We are going to take a water break, and we'll be back for some demos. Coop, have a good one, man. Thanks.
Much love, brother. Have a good day. See ya.
Oh. All right, guys. Hang on just 1 second. We'll be right back.